Welcome back to Any Recapped. Today we are going to recap Vinland Saga Part 2. Hope you enjoy. Previously, Thor Snorreson, or Thors, was a legendary Jon Viking warrior who had won many battles for his country, Denmark. However, after the Sjörungavr War, he gave up killing and settled in a coastal Iceland village for a life in seclusion. After 15 years, Floki, one of his comrades, found him and asked him to rejoin the army, threatening that Thor's refusal would spell doom for his village. Reluctantly, Thors agreed and left for Denmark to participate in the king's English campaign. Floki, meanwhile, hired a pirate Askeladd to kill Thors midway for deserting the battlefield earlier and bringing shame to the Joms. Young Thorfinn witnessed his father's killing and vowed to avenge his death by killing Askeladd. He joined Askeladd's band of pirates and honed his warrior instincts as they continuously plundered English cities. When one of his men asked him the reason behind keeping Thorfinn with him, Askeladd replied, "A blind maniac is a perfect tool." Vikings and Danish government-supported pirates continue to plunder coastal areas of England. And then, attacking a country during winter can be a strategic blunder, so let our troops rest in this season. We will attack England in the upcoming summer season. I will personally oversee the attack. King Svein of Denmark orders. The royal decree renders Vikings like Askeladd and other mercenaries jobless. They can't attack England, otherwise they carry the risk of annoying their Dane supporters. On the other hand, they can't sit idle. Something needs to be done, and that's when Askeladd comes up with a brilliant idea. The Danish king has stopped them from attacking England, but not France sailing down the western side near the Loire Valley. Askeladd notices that a nearby castle is under siege. He asks his man to stop rowing as he observes the invading army's foolish tactics of attacking from the front. Then he asks his men to row up the river Loire stream and figures out that castle defense at the back on the riverside is noticeably weaker. He thinks the defensive army will not stand a chance if attacked from water. Dancing excitedly upon the prospect of having opportunity to kill and plunder, Askeladd orders Thorfinn to go to the camp of the attacking army and convey his message to its leaders that Askeladd and his men are willing to help them in their fight against the castle army, but in return, they should get half the spoils. Thorfinn, however, is having none of it. He reminds Askeladd of his promise and challenges him to a duel, boasting that he has already made a name for himself on the battlefield. Not someone to let go of a chance to get a great spoil, Askeladd puts forward a condition. "Get me the head of the captain of the defending army, and I will fight you, boy." Thorfinn meets the leader of the attacking army and tells him about Askeladd's plans. Initially hesitant, he agrees to Askeladd's terms considering his army is also getting weaker due to continuous fighting. Thorfinn signals Askeladd to proceed with the attack. Then Askeladd orders his men to carry ships over the land to the other side of the river, where castle defense is weak. Both the French armies are astonished to see this. As the captain of the defensive army prepares his troops for the Viking attack, Thorfinn climbs up the wall and kills him. His death causes the castle army to surrender. When the rejoicing army enters the city, they discover that Askeladd has already taken all the treasure. Enraged and feeling cheated, its leader asks his archers to rain arrows on Askeladd's men. But by the time they take their positions, Vikings have already escaped and are well beyond their striking reach. When Thorfinn presents the captain's head and reminds Askeladd of his promise, he says, "Later on, boy, let's celebrate first." After ransacking the French castle and having plenty of spoils, Askeladd decides to head back home to let his army freshen up. The sight of their town excites every man on the ships as they were also getting weary due to constant fighting in the upcoming winter. The whole year was very profitable for Askeladd and his men. They have accumulated enough treasure to easily spend their winter in their homes without doing anything. Upon seeing Askeladd's ships coming back, villagers start to rejoice. They know it means treasure and a chance to get into one of the best Viking bands and roam through the North Sea. However, Lord Gorm is not happy. He looks after Askeladd's army, providing them with food, shelter, and booze. With a constant increase in prices of the items, he is worried that upkeeping 100 warriors will not be easy. Askeladd, knowing his uncle Gorm's lust for money, puts forward all the money bags onto his table and promises to pay all the dues in full. Such words were music to the ears of misers like Lord Gorm. He orders his slave girl, Horda, to bring in the wine and prepare the meal. However, Askeladd has some other unfinished business. Villagers gather outside Gorm's house and start making noise as Thorfinn takes on Askeladd again. He attacks the pirate and almost pins him down. Acknowledging Thorfinn's strength and fighting capabilities, Askeladd decides to play a trick. He incites the emotional trauma of watching his father getting killed in Thorfinn and takes him down when he is emotionally weak. Unlike previous times when he would let Thorfinn go unhurt, Askeladd breaks his shoulder to teach him a lesson. When a villager asks why Askeladd carries Thorfinn despite his hate, he says, Thorfinn is a true warrior and will not be satisfied until he has killed Askeladd in one-on-one battle to let time make use of his instincts. As per last year's official decree, King Sweyn decides to go to England, so the battle drum starts beating up once the summer begins. When Floki apprised him of the army's position, he asks whether Prince Knut will join. To which Floki replies, "Ye as Danish attacks start from the Humber River Valley on the east coast of England." Immediately, 5 prominent village leaders surrender and decide to pay tribute to the attacking army. From there, the Danish army marches south under the leadership of King Sweyn and Prince Knut. No castle was spared as, one by one, all the major cities of England were forced to open their gates to the invaders. It has been 2 months since they sailed from their shores, and the Danish army has continued its downward march toward mainland England. No army could put up any fight against them until they reached the merchant's town named Londinium, or London. For the Danish army, London proves difficult to conquer. To make matters worse, Thorkell, once a commander in Snorrisen's army and a Floki comrade, joined the English army, deserting his native country. He turns the London Bridge into a virtual fortress, not allowing any Dane ship to pass by. Any attempt made by the invading army to get past the bridge is repulsed, inflicting great harm. As the siege continues, the morale of the attacking army lowers, creating doubts in the leader's mind about whether they can hold on. To make matters worse, winter is approaching fast. The attacking army wants to stay on the battlefield against spine-chilling weather. Danes have to attack fast. Thus, Floki decides to negotiate with his old comrade Thorkell. He sets out on a ship and tries to persuade Thorkell to return. He also informs him that the King of England has fled the country and is in France. Thus, there is no point in continuing to fight. Upon receiving a thumping no as a reply from Thorkell, Floki puts forward a deal. He says King Sweyn will let Thorkell retain all of his belongings and no harm will come his way if he decides to join the Danes. However, Thorkell is not a person to be persuaded easily. Getting bored of the impasse, Askeladd orders Thorfinn to bring him Thorkell's head for another round of duel. Accepting the challenge, Thorfinn manages to reach London Bridge and confronts Thorkell. Admiring the guts of a young warrior, Thorkell restrains everyone from touching Thorfinn, ordering that he will take him down. Despite his age and size, Thorfinn proves to be a tough challenger and manages to sever Thorkell's right hand. However, he punches back and badly injures young Thorfinn. Before striking his final blow, Thorkell asks Thorfinn his name. "I am Thorfinn, son of Thors." Thorkell is taken aback upon hearing the name of his commander after so many years. It allows Thorfinn to jump into the river and swim to safety. Thorkell lets him go considering he is a son of the famous Thor Snorrisen. Deaths were mounting, injuries were increasing, and the army was losing its morale. King Sweyn was concerned with the current state of his soldiers. He marches to the tents of the troops along with Floki and other commanders to inspect. What he sees doesn't excite him. Thus, he decides to divide his army and concentrate on attacking from land. Upon his order, 3/4 of the military is to march to the west and then move forward on land towards London, while the remaining 1/4 remains here to tackle Thorkell and his men. Those who stay at River Thames will be under Prince Knut's command, while King Sweyn will ride with the majority of the army to the west. As the Danish army moves back from the river, the English army stations on London Bridge start to celebrate. They have not dreamt of a victory after what happened to their northern brethren. For them, it is time to celebrate. Prince Knut, King Sweyn's second-born son, is a young man who despises war. Under the guardianship of Sir Ragnar, he has developed a liking for Christianity. He never participates in any military or political decision-making, which worries the king. One night, Thorfinn dreams of standing in a warm land full of pastures. Suddenly, he hears his mother calling him out, and alongside her is his sister preparing the meat for dinner. Then he sees his father shepherding lambs. Thorfinn tells him how excited he is to have meat for dinner. Then Snorrisen gets serious. He informs Thorfinn how wonderful it is to have a caring family who waits for the return of their loved one. So think about them first before engulfing yourself in the fire of revenge. Also think about me. Ponder if I, your father, would like such bloodshed. And the dream turns into a nightmare as Thorfinn sees his father getting pierced by the incoming arrows. Not interested in the bragging stories of the men, Thorfinn reaches a hill, only to find Askeladd deep in his thoughts. Watching him come, Askeladd asks Thorfinn to look around to see how time leaves everyone behind. The nearby ruins were built by the once mighty Romans who Saxons trounced, and now Danes are likely to take over England. That's life. Everything moves on. All of a sudden, they both see an incoming horseman. He is an ally scout. Askeladd calls him up. He asks the scout about the latest information, to which he delivers bad news. The scout, who was in the army under Prince Knut's command, informs Askeladd that after King Sweyn left in the middle of the London siege, the English army under Thorkell's command attacked us and took Prince Canute as a prisoner. Astonished, Askeladd asks that Prince Canute has 4,000 under his command. How could such a large army be slaughtered so easily, provided the English army is not that large and strong? The scout replies that Thorkell and his 500 Vikings were the main reason. They fought like beasts and didn't allow any Dane soldier to put up a fight. Hardly 500 survived, including the scout. After appraising him about the current situation, the scout asks Askeladd for help. Askeladd, thinking that helping out a prince in such a dire situation will bring him good fortune in the future, agrees. As a part of his plan to incite the main Danish army, Thorkell marches north with Prince Canute and Ragnar as his prisoners. During the march, his men make fun of the weak prince who couldn't handle his 4,000 men and didn't put up a fight worthy of a nobleman. Ragnar becomes furious and questions the intentions of Thorkell and his men. Marching north with only 500 men to take on 16,000 highly trained army is nothing but madman, Ragnar proclaims. He also reminds Thorkell how he has betrayed his king and aligned with the English for petty benefits. Thorkell, though, is looking at the bigger picture. However, he responds to Ragnar that as a Norman warrior, he believes in the legend of Valhalla, Odin's, god of the Vikings, promised land full of bounties for the brave soldiers who died on the battlefield and are revered as the warriors of God. Ragnar is having none of it. Being an ardent Christian, he believes that the Danes' lust for killing forces them to take on the battlefield rather than anything else. Suddenly, the march stops. People look at each other as to what happened when Thorkell informs them about an incoming enemy. Ragnar's men have surrounded Thorkell's men. Their captain calls out to Thorkell, asking him to hand over the prince and other nobles in return for compensation. Thorkell complies with the demands and lets them free, which astonishes the Danish army. They were not expecting such an easy encounter. But things are about to get messy and bloody. Thorkell challenges the captain and his men to come forward and fight like true warriors. Ragnar knows Thorkell's true intentions, so he cautions his men to retreat and not pay attention to what their opponent is saying. It is just a trap. In the meantime, Thorkell and his Vikings start teasing and abusing the soldiers, calling them cowards. Unable to control their rage, the captain orders his men to march forward and kill their enemy. However, every Danish soldier is put to the sword. Not far from the battlefield is the army of Askeladd. They were marching forward to meet Ragnar and the prince. The commotion caused by the fight cautions them. Trying to seize the moment, Askeladd orders his men to continue moving forward and reach the hilltop as early as possible. Upon reaching the desired height, Askeladd led his men to empty the oil barrels they had been carrying and put them on fire. Smoke engulfs the whole forest, making it impossible to fight. Then Askeladd orders Thorfinn to go and rescue Prince Canute. Ragnar, despite zero visibility due to smoke, tries to take the prince to a safer place. However, Thorkell's men find him, but as they are about to take the prince, Thorfinn shows up and kills one of the attackers. Watching Thorfinn in the middle, Thorkell instructs his men to stay back. Not interested in fighting him, Thorkell just wants to confirm whether Thorfinn is the son of Thor Snorrisson. Upon confirmation, he informs Thorfinn that his father was a legend and was called the Troll of Jorn. As Askeladd and his men, along with the Danish prince, march westwards, they reach a riverbank. Watching an old man fishing in the winter season, Askeladd asks him whether he can deliver his message to the other side of the river. He instructs that the letter should be given to an elder only and urgently. Hearing that, the old man left instantly. Watching Askeladd stop his march in the middle of nowhere enrages Ragnar. As he moves forward to confront him, he sees a guy prostrating on the ground, trying to hear something. He is the ear of our army, Bjorn. Askeladd's main man informs Ragnar. The ear then tells Askeladd that Thorkell's incoming army has sped up and is only a day's march behind. Plus, they have 500 horsemen and foot soldiers, far more than Askeladd's 100. Then he instructs everyone to shut down and informs them there are 2 riders up on the hills. They are Thorkell's scouts. Hearing about Thorkell makes Askeladd's men nervous. To calm their nerves and to keep them busy, Askeladd instructs his men to march in the night. He knows Thorkell is catching up, hence he wants to reach his destination as soon as possible. Destination? Upon reaching a ruined site, Askeladd gets off his course and walks up to the 2 men standing in front of him. Watching only 2 men at the proposed reinforcement site enrages Askeladd's men. However, once the pleasantries are exchanged, they signal back and 3 ships show up. Thorkell's scouts inform him about the scenario. He's astonished and exclaims, so they have allies in Wales. Wales is to the west of England. It's mainly a mountainous region not suitable for cultivation. Since the fall of the Roman reign in Britannia, no king could unify Wales under his command, which was divided into many small kingdoms at that time. One of them is Morgan, Askeladd's ally. Reaching the other side of River Severn calms down Ragnar, who can breathe safely now. He asks Askeladd to instruct his men to load the ship and leave immediately for Gainsbourg. Askeladd, however, was having none of it. He informs them that they will be marching inland to the king since asking for 3 warships will be too much. At least to say that Ragnar is not amused. Then the same guy who had earlier rescued them shows up. Askeladd introduces him as General Gratianus of Morgana Kingdom and informs Ragnar that the general will guide them through Wales to ensure no other king ambushes them. General Gratianus comes forward and talks straight to the prince. He says that the only reason he and his country are helping them is to get a non-aggression pact in return from the Danes, stating that they will not invade Wales. Marching forward, they reach Britannia Kingdom, another of the small Wales kingdoms. General Gratianus had informed them about the journey, thus their nobles came out to receive them. However, Ir informs Bjorn that he is sensing more men over the hill and they are armed. Will Britannia Kingdom allow Askeladd and his people to continue marching through their territory, or have they aligned with the English? Let's find out in part 3. Comment below if you want part 3 of Vinland Saga and subscribe to our channel for more similar content. You've been fantastic. Bye.